Hello, if you're watching this video right now, you're interested in learning how to perform a proper CDL pre-trip inspection. You probably want to learn this skill in order to pass a CDL road test. Now I must warn you, the CDL road test, no matter where you take it, is going to be a 2.5 hour test. So it does require the proper training in order for you to pass this test the first time. My name is Jonathan with Driving Academy, and we are the best driving school located in Linden, New Jersey. We help hundreds of our students every single year to pass their CDL road test the first time. Now we're about to show you some of our secrets on how we get our students to pass their CDL road test, so please follow along with us and we'll be happy to help you along. Now remember, this is free training. We do have much higher quality training when you give us a call, and we can actually show you all the secrets of the trade and get you to pass the first time without a problem. So follow along with me as we go through a CDL pre-trip inspection on this Class A tractor trailer. Thanks. So our pre-trip inspection is going to start off with the front of the vehicle. The first we must talk about is our lights. So we have our 5 clearance lights up top. We must say that they are amber and clean and functional. On our windshield wipers that are next, we have to say that the wipers, arms, and blades are secure and operate smoothly. As we go down the vehicle, we're going to see our headlights and turn signals. Our headlights and turn signals are also clean and functional. We also have hood mirrors as well. The hood mirrors cannot be loose, missing, or damaged, and have no loose fittings. As we go underneath the vehicle from the front, you can see that we also are going to have no puddles on the ground and no dripping fluid on the underside of the engine or transmission. And that's what you have to talk about for the front part of the engine. And notice the wording that I'm using, because that is very, very, very important. Now we're going to look under the hood on the driver's side. On the driver's side, we're going to have our power steering fluid. We first must indicate where the dipstick is located. It is an adequate level and above the refill mark. The next fluid that we're going to look at is our oil level. Indicate the dipstick again. It's in safe operating range above the refill mark. You do not have to pull out the dipsticks during the actual test. You just must use the wording. Next we're going to talk about is your power steering box. Now your power steering box is mounted securely, not damaged or leaking. No missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. We also have to make sure the power steering hoses are in good condition and not leaking as well. Followed is our steering linkage, which consists of 3 pieces: my arm, my link, and then I'm going to show you where your tie rod is located. As you can see there, it's that bar that's underneath that's highlighted right now. So my arm, link, and rod should not be worn or cracked. My joints and sockets should not be worn or loose, and there should be no missing nuts, bolts, or cotter keys. Next thing we're going to talk about is our alternator. Now our alternator is going to be belt driven. It is operating properly, it is not damaged or leaking, and it is mounted securely. The belt has no more than 3/4 inch of play and no cracks or frays. We must say that because it is belt driven. Next thing that we cannot see, but it is behind here on the driver's side, is the air compressor. My air compressor is gear driven, it is operating properly, it is not damaged or leaking, and it is also mounted securely. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is our power steering pump. Our power steering pump is found behind that frame. It's kind of hidden, but it is gear driven, it is operating properly, it is not damaged or leaking, and it is also mounted securely. And that covers the driver's side engine. The only thing we must add is our hoses. So our hoses are in good condition and not leaking. We do not see any puddles on the ground, and there is also no dripping fluid on the underside of the engine or transmission. And that covers, again, the driver's side engine on this vehicle. Now onto the passenger side underneath the hood. So the first thing we're going to talk about is our coolant level. Our coolant level, I'm going to inspect my reservoir sight glass. It's filled to adequate level. If the engine was not hot, I would remove the cap and check from the top. Now during the test day, your engine has ran, so that means it's hot. Next item is going to be our water pump. Now our water pump is gear driven, it is operating properly, it is not damaged or leaking, and it is mounted securely. It's hard to see this thing because it is hidden behind the frame itself. Next thing on this side, we're also going to inspect our hoses. All of our hoses on the passenger side are in good condition and not leaking, and that covers the passenger side of the engine. Next, we're going to check our steering axle, suspension, and brakes. This is going to be different than other suspensions, so make sure you pay attention. First thing is going to be leaf springs. It cannot be missing, shifted, cracked, or broken. This is going to be followed by our U-bolts in the center there, which cannot be broken, loose, or missing any bolts, and they have to be secured to the vehicle axle. This is followed by our spring hanger, which cannot be cracked or broken, which is followed by our shock absorber, which cannot be leaking and has to be mounted securely. It is mounted with our bushings, which can be found on the top and on the bottom of the shock absorber. It's those round rubber pieces right there, and they cannot be missing or damaged. That covers everything on the suspension. It's time to move on to the brakes now. First thing in the brakes is going to be the slack adjuster and push rod. They cannot be broken, loose, or missing any parts. They can also not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released when pulled by hand. Our brake chamber is next. That cannot be cracked, damaged, broken, or leaking, and it has to be mounted securely. Our brake hoses, lines, and couplings are next, which cannot be cracked, worn, or leaking. And behind the tire, we have our brake drum and our brake lining. Our brake drum cannot be cracked, damaged, or have any holes. Also cannot have any broken or loose missing bolts, free from contaminants such as oil, debris, and grease. Our brake lining cannot be worn dangerously thin. Now that's all of our brakes. All of our brakes are exactly the same no matter what tire you're talking about. And remember the number 5 because we talked about 5 different brake items. Do you remember what they are? Think about it. Now that's your steering axle. So let's pay attention and move on to the next section. Next is our steering tire. First thing we must talk about is our tread depth. Our tread depth has to be no less than 4/32 of an inch, and the tread has to be evenly worn. There cannot be any cuts or damage to the tread or to the sidewall. The rim can also have no damage, no bends or welding repairs. My valve stepping cam cannot be broken, loose, or missing, and my tire pressure should be from 90 to 100 psi. Next is going to be my lug nuts. My lug nuts are all present. There's no indications of looseness such as rust trails or shiny treads. My bolt holes are not distorted. That center black piece is your hub seal. The hub seal cannot be leaking and it has to be filled to the adequate level. And that is your front steering tire. Next, we're going to talk about our door. Now, our door cannot be damaged and must also open and close properly from the outside. The hinges must be secure and the seal on the inside must be intact. Next is our mirror. Our mirror brackets cannot be broken or damaged, and they cannot have any loose fittings as well. Next is our fuel tank. Our fuel tank is unsecure. It is not leaking from the tank or lines, and as you can see, our cap is going to be on very tightly. Next is going to be our steps. Now we have multiple steps on the truck. We're also going to say that it is solid, free from objects, and securely mounted to the vehicle frame. These steps will say the same exact thing, including with our catwalk. So steps and catwalk are solid, clear of objects, and securely mounted to the vehicle frame. Next, we're going to have our air and electric lines. Our air and electric lines cannot be spliced, cut, chafed, or worn. They cannot have any steel braids showing through. They also cannot be tangled or dragging against any attractive parts. As you can see, these lines are not. Next, we're going to talk about our exhaust system. So our exhaust has to be connected tightly, mounted securely. It cannot have any signs of leaks or holes, such as rust or carbon soot. Next, we're going to talk about when we get up on top of the catwalk, we can see our drive shaft, which is that round, solid bar of metal underneath the frame. So the drive shaft cannot be cracked or bent, and the couplings have to be secure and free from foreign objects as well, and those are your couplings where they connect. Next, we're going to have our frame and our cross member. Our frame and cross member, which is going across, cannot be broken or damaged. and cannot have any welding repairs. Next, we're going to have our mounting bolts and brackets. They cannot be broken, loose, or missing. These are our air and electrical connections. These have to be connected tightly to the trailer. Our glad hands also have to be connected tightly with no air leaks, and our electrical plug has to be firmly seated. Next, we're going to have our header board. Our header board cannot be damaged, has to have no holes or bulges, and can safely secure any cargo that we put into this trailer. So what I also want you folks to understand is anytime you see reflectors or lights on the vehicle, you must talk about them. Reflectors are clean and functional and amber in color. Reflective tape is clean and functional. Okay. Next is going to be our drive tires. So the drive tires cannot have any less than 2/32 of an inch in tread depth. The tread has to be evenly worn. There also must be no cuts or damage to the tread or to the sidewall of the tire. My rim, which can be found in white, cannot be damaged, bent, and have no welding repairs. Our lug nuts are also all present. There's no signs of looseness such as rust trails or shiny treads, and there's no bolt holes distortion. Our axle seal is not leaking, and as you can see, our valve caps and stems on both tires and our dual tires also cannot be broken, damaged, loose, or missing. We must also check the tire pressure must be 90 to 100 psi on both tires. Now, because there's two tires, we must talk about our bud spacing, which is not bent, damaged, or rusted through. Tires are evenly separated and spacers are evenly centered. Next, we're going to have our mud flap, which is not damaged and mounted securely as well. Back here we also have an air ride suspension. This is new, which cannot be damaged or leaking. In the front, we are going to have the same spring hanger, which cannot be cracked or broken, as you can see there. We are also going to have a leaf spring, which is that thin bar, which is not missing, shifted, cracked, or broken, followed by that torque arm, which is the thicker bar that cannot be damaged and it must be mounted securely. Now we're going to look behind the tire. In the middle we have our U-bolts, which cannot be missing or loose and securely mounted to the vehicle axle. We have our shock absorber, which is not leaking and mounted securely, and our bushings, which is not damaged and also not missing as well. Now we still need our brakes. Remember, there's 5 items: slack adjuster and push rod, brake chamber, brake hoses, lines, and couplings, brake drum, and brake lining. Make sure you use the same words that we used in the front axle for these. Now the fifth wheel. First, our lock and jaw is fully locked around the kingpin, as you can see there. Next thing we're going to talk about is our fifth wheel skid plate, which is properly lubricated. It is also not loose or missing any bolts, and it is mounted securely to the platform, and all the bolts and pins are secure, like I said, and not missing, as you can see there. Now, our platform is not cracked or broken, and because this is a sliding fifth wheel, we must also double check to make sure that there are no loose or missing pins, and all the locking pins are fully engaged, and that the fifth wheel is positioned properly, that the tractor frame will clear the landing gear during turns. Okay, we are also going to have to talk about the gap, that there is no gap between the fifth wheel and the apron. In the back, we're going to have to talk about the release arm, which is in the engaged position and the safety latch is in place. We also have to make sure that the kingpin is not bent, the apron is not bent, cracked, or broken. And those are all the items you must talk about for your fifth wheel. So back here we must also talk about our taillights. Our taillights are clean and functional. We must also talk about the reflective tape, clean and functional. Our landing gear is fully raised on the trailer. Our crank handle is secure, no loose or missing parts, and the support frame is secure as well. Okay? As we move down the side of the trailer, any lights or reflective tape that we see, we must call it clean and functional. Now as we move back to the trailer tires, our tread depth must be 2/32 of an inch. Our tread must be evenly worn. There must be no cuts or damage to the tread or to the sidewall, as you can see that there is not. Next, we're going to talk about our rim. It's not bent, damaged, and has no welding repairs. Our lug nuts are all present, free from looseness such as rust trails or shiny treads. Our axle seal in the middle is still not leaking and filled to adequate level. Our valve cap and stem, again 2 tires, 2 different valve caps, are not missing or damaged, and the tire pressure must be 90 to 100 psi. Because there is multiple tires here, we must talk about the spacers here. The spacers not bent, damaged, or rusted through, and the tires are evenly separated, as well as the spacers being evenly centered, as you can see a clear picture from this point of view right over here. Next, we're going to talk about the suspension, so that your spring hanger not cracked or broken, leaf spring, thin bar is not missing, shifted, cracked, or broken, torque arm, thick bar is not going to be damaged, and also it is mounted securely. In the center we have also 2 U-bolts like we talked about, not loose or missing bolts, and securely mounted to the vehicle axle. Underneath here we have a good view of our brakes. Again, we have all 5 brake items back here, which are brake hoses, lines, and couplings, brake chambers, brake drums, brake linings, and slack adjusters and push rods. Make sure to remember to say all the brake items. So, when it comes to the back of our trailer, we're going to have a door tie that must be secure. This is what we use to secure the door to. Makes sense, right? Next, underneath the trailer door tie is going to be a trailer frame. So my trailer frame, cross-member box, and floor cannot be damaged, broken, or have any holes. My reflective tape must also be clean and functional, as you can see. Also, any lights that you see in the back. The back door must open and close properly, and also latch. The hinges must be secure, and the seal must be intact. Okay? When it comes to the trailer lights, they all must be clean and functional. The clearance lights in the center, clean and functional, and red in color because of the rear. Reflective tape also clean and functional. Now that completes our CDL pre-trip inspection. Now during your test, you definitely do not want to go as fast as this video. You want to talk about each item individually, and you want to take your time. Remember, there is no time limit. Now if you want the best chance of passing your test, you have to give the best truck driving school a call today, and that's us. Give us a call. We're located in Linden, New Jersey. Our name again is Driving Academy, and we're here to help you get to your road to freedom. And we also offer free lifetime job placement, so you can also make some good money with your new license. Thank you very much. Have a good day.